The morning commute descends into chaos.
It was like being inside an exploding bomb.
There was a couple people that were pinned from the waist down.
The latest in the deadly Amtrak derailment as crews carefully clear debris and Amtrak cars right now.
And our mission is to not just understand what happened, but why it happened.
The latest on the victims' conditions just in this morning as a team of NTSB investigators arrived overnight in our state to begin the painstaking job of figuring out what went wrong.
Preliminary indications are that the train was traveling at 80 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour track.
We have new information and a lot of things happening right now at the crash site. As you take a look right now, investigators sifting through debris. Crews are making some quick progress of removing pieces of the wreckage. You're looking at a time-lapse video here showing the work overnight and then into this morning as they start to remove those train cars.
Our team coverage continues right now. The deadly train derailment in DuPont forcing southbound I-5 to close.
We are live at the scene with the very latest on the NTSB investigation that's happening right now. We're covering every angle for you this morning.
ABC News released this early recreation of the crash, a chilling image of what dozens of commuters were forced to face yesterday morning just after 7:30.
Okay, there is plenty to get to. We also want to get a check of our roads first with Paris.
And traffic-wise this morning, a lot of people are heeding the warning and not taking southbound I-5, although we have a few cars that, as you can see, are exiting towards that detour. We're going to have some ways to get around this closure, but keep in mind they are long backups.
And as the cleanup continues, they're going to be facing a lot of rain and a lot of wind through the day today. The wind not an issue now, but the rain is, and very heavy rain at times throughout much of the afternoon and into the evening.
Piggybacking on what Paris just said, we've been hearing from viewers this morning describing the scene on State Route 507, which is already congested again today as the morning commute picks up. Just got a tweet here from a KOMO News viewer who says yesterday it was so bad, he got off the bus he was riding and walked 57 blocks home, and it was faster, he says. Go ahead and show you what Washshot is tweeting here this morning. If you're just joining us, they're saying traffic already starting to build through the Roy area on State Route 507 in South Pierce County. Through traffic, encouraged to use State Route 16 and State Route 3 as alternate routes. Southbound I-5, they say, will stay closed at Mounts Road until further notice. Be careful on the roads out there.
Meanwhile, work at that site continues. We want to get live now to KOMO's Denise Whitaker.
She's been on the scene in DuPont all morning long, and Denise, it looks like they're making some progress moving those cars.
They are, though it is a very, very slow process. Let's take a look very closely at what these crews are doing down here. There are a number of crews down there, and they definitely have got the cranes set up, ready to go. And what you can't see behind me are the flatbed trucks that are lined up. There are so many flatbed trucks here because this is a lot of equipment, a lot of train cars that need to be moved in order to get this highway back open again and really to get the investigation in a faster mode, because right now everything is slow. They are analyzing what they can, but it is going to take time to get through here. Now, I want you to get a view from Air 4 that was captured yesterday, because that aerial view really tells you and shows you exactly what crews are dealing with. You know, yesterday we did not have the weather that we have today with the pouring rain, the chilly temperatures, and you can definitely see, you know, 12 cars, a forward locomotive, a rear locomotive, all stretched out there off the tracks on the highway. And it is definitely going to be a long time for them to get all of this carefully moved. I just talked with Bella Denzar from the NTSB about the process. They have about 20 people, she told me, on the ground here in Western Washington. And while they are leaving the removal of the wreckage to local crews, she said their investigators are working to interview all of the crew, for instance. But all of them, she told me, were hospitalized. So that's also yet another process that they're having to work through. The next steps here on I-5 are many, from carefully removing the wreckage to analyzing it, assessing the highway and the overpass. That will be done by state officials to make sure that it's safe, and national transportation officials. It will also be likely all of today, though nobody's really able or, you know, really has the ability to give a time estimate on how long all of this will take. Now, while the highway remains closed, there is a detour in place, and I want you to know. Now, granted, we took the detour, my photographer and I, at a very early hour this morning, but I do want you to know it is a very easy detour to take. Everyone on southbound I-5 must exit by exit 118 can't go any further. You will turn left, which is east over the interstate. You will end up on JBLM. They have our service members there on the property guiding you through that detour. It is short, it is easy, but if too many drivers are trying to take it, it is going to be time consuming. So if you can avoid travel through this area at all, that is certainly the best way to go. And of course, Paris is telling you about other detours or other ways you can get around. It is going to be a lengthy process, likely all of today, before any progress can be made on getting Interstate I-5 southbound open again.
Long, tough day ahead, Denise. And again, we want to give you a fresh look from overnight. These massive cranes trying to lift the mangled cars off their tracks and then move them safely for investigation. Also overnight, a team of NTSB investigators arrived in our state. They are now on scene as well. And KOMO's Matt Markovich also live in DuPont with that part of our coverage.
That's right. We're going to talk about the NTSB investigation from our perch, which is right above the tracks as they head south toward that trestle. We're just west of where Denise is. And as we look down the tracks, we've seen a little extra movement right at that apex of the curve there, where we believe that's where the train went off the tracks, doing what NTSB is preliminary saying 80 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Now, NTSB board member Bella Dinzar said that the speed of the train at the time of the accident was determined by downloading the event data recorder from the train's rear locomotive. She said one of the questions investigators hoped to answer in interviews with the crew was whether the engineer was aware that the speed limit in the corridor where the accident occurred was 30 miles an hour. We spoke to her just a few minutes ago.
Well, that certainly raises a concern for us because we were fortunate enough that we were able to get that information from the event data recorder. But we want to make sure that we don't miss any of the other factors that might have also contributed to it. But you're absolutely right that the fact that it was an potential overspeed accident and a derailment calls to mind the question of why we haven't had positive train control across the nation and why, we haven't used this tool that could be a prevention tool to save more lives.
Now you're going to hear a lot about positive train control, or PTC, in this investigation. It was installed in this stretch of track in question. The PTC is a system designed to help trains automatically stop in dangerous situations. Now, it was installed in this portion of the track, but it wasn't activated. These tracks are actually owned by Sound Transit, and a Sound Transit spokesperson says that the activation was going to take place in the spring of 2018, and that's going to raise a big question on why they weren't activated on day one of this new passenger service down this track. Now, this is the first full day for the NTSB investigation on the scene, and actually one of the big investigators is a person who headed up the 2015 investigation into a Philadelphia train crash that killed 8 people. He's actually on the scene here today and will be investigating this crash all day, and that investigation could last 7 to 10 days. We're hearing from an early report from the NTSB. Reporting live near DuPont, Matt Markovich, KOMO News.
And if your morning commute takes you through Pierce and Thurston counties this morning, keep in mind there are several detours in place in that crash area. WashDOT cannot predict when southbound I-5 will reopen. Within the last hour, we spoke to WashDOT's Barbara LeBeau and asked her what are the next steps for crews on the ground.
Once all of the cars and the locomotives are removed, and again, that will be a lengthy process, we need to inspect both the overpass the cars would drive underneath and then the roadway as well. It is possible the roadway may need some repairs. We have crews ready to go in and make any repairs as soon as we have access to that, but that's another thing that could slow down reopening the road to all traffic. So again,
LeBeau says it's important you avoid the area because crews need access just to get that job done. Now for the latest on the people injured in that train derailment. 10 people suffered serious injuries. One man was in critical condition, has now been upgraded to fair condition. We're told all 10 are expected to recover. After the train derailed, 72 people were taken to area hospitals.
Nice to hear of some improvements this morning. Survivors now out of the hospital are sharing their frightening stories this morning. Among them, Beverly and Charlie Hebner, who were excited to take that inaugural ride on the new route. But that first trip turned into a nightmare when the train derailed tossing passengers everywhere.
All of a sudden, it was just a crash, and there it was down. I mean, the train went like this.
After getting myself upright and my legs unfolded, I saw her legs, and I reached down and I shook one, and she shook it back. I said, oh, Lord. I said, you all right? She says, I think so.
Thank goodness. The couple had to crawl out of a train window. Bruised and battered, they are just thankful to have escaped with their lives.
Very quickly, I want to show you a new tweet that just came out from Washington Emergency Management. If you need any evidence of how long the wait could be in traffic, all you need to do is read this tweet. Live 18, they say, if you are taking detours, plan for a wait. Better bring your vehicle emergency kit with you in case the wait is way longer than you expected. Safe to say you're going to want to make sure that you certainly have your car filled with gas before you get on the road, especially if you have to take one of these detours, because the last thing you want is to get stuck in a line and be low on gas and potentially risk running out right there on the side of the road.
Yeah, we don't need more issues out on the road, that's for sure. For those who need more emotional support right now, Optum Health Services is offering a free emotional support. This is a toll-free number you can call if you need it. Here it is, 1-866-342-6892. This is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, open to anyone who just needs someone to talk to.
And let's talk about traffic. We have to mention, and we've been saying all morning long and even yesterday, if you do not have to travel southbound I-5, do not do so. If you have the luxury or telecommuting today, working from home, you definitely want to do that while we have that massive closure of southbound lanes right at Mounds Road down in the DuPont area. When we were talking about those lengthy alternate routes, one of the alternate routes we were telling people to take was travel between Roy, McKenna, and Yelm. But you can see for yourself, it's no longer viable. When you see 5 miles per hour, that means traffic is not moving at all. So again, if you're going to be had plans to take maybe State Route 7 and traveling through State Route 507, this is why you do not want to take it. You can see heavy delays in that area. One alternate route still pretty viable right about now is Highway 16 in that westbound direction, crossing the Narrows Bridge, traveling on Highway 3, traveling southbound, and then rejoining State Route 101 southbound. That is going to be a good viable alternate route, but keep in mind it is a long time that it's going to take you to get where you need to go. So just give yourself plenty of patience and time this morning if you have to head to work getting south of DuPont.
And not only are we dealing with those detours, but we're also dealing with some very heavy rain coming down in much of the South Sound, really, for that matter, all across western Washington. Here's a look at what's going on. A live view on our KOMO News radar. Look at all of that rain. The pockets of yellows and oranges now making its way across areas of the Kitsap Peninsula and Puget Sound, all making its way to the north and east. So, yeah, gear up for some of that heavy rain to continue on that commute, and an hour-by-hour outlook calling for those temperatures in the low to mid-40s, likely throughout much of the afternoon. Will be cloudy, will be wet and windy through the afternoon.
Looking live at really what is such a surreal sight seen in DuPont as crews continue to work overnight to remove those cars from that trestle and from Interstate 5.
The NTSB is on the scene. We will hear more from them coming up momentarily as KOMO Morning News at 6 o'clock continues. Keep it here. Well, as we have mentioned, this morning marks the first full day of the investigation for the NTSB team that arrived in our region last night. Speed, just one of several factors they're going to be examining here, and whether new technology could have prevented this crash. We have learned the positive train control system was not active on the stretch of track where this happened. We just spoke with NTSB board member Bella Dinsdale. Here's what she had to say.
Positive train control just simply is a safety overlay system that uses technology for communication so that trains, so there will be prevention of train-to-train collisions, preventing incursions into work zones, and prevention of accidents like this one where there's an overspeed and derailment. And the reason, you asked the reason it hasn't been implemented, it's been recommended by us, it's been mandated, but unfortunately Congress has delayed, pushed back the deadline to the end of 2018.
That new deadline, end of 2018, set years ago, actually. Investigators have yet to interview the crew and engineer in the accident, and we're unsure of why the train was going so fast.
And this morning, one of the passengers on board that derailed train shared his story with Good Morning America. Chris Carnes says the impact catapulted him into another seat. He says his damaged train car ended up tilted on an embankment and that he had to escape through a window.
At first, we tried the emergency door, but that wouldn't budge because the train car had been crumpled. And so what we had to do is we pulled out the string around the emergency window, and we kicked that out.
Carnes says he knew the train was traveling fast because they were passing cars along the highway. He says he was even tweeting about it before the train derailed.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what's happening elsewhere in the region, because we actually have snow reports coming in from Port Angeles and pictures to prove it this morning from some of our KOMO News viewers. I can share them with you here. Live 18, one of the photos coming in from Deb Petty. They're in Port Angeles saying our rain has turned to snow this morning. Another one showing snow accumulating here on a truck. This coming from Levi there in Port Angeles, and he points out in this tweet that he is at sea level. I know, Seth, that you're tracking a lot of the changing weather across the area.
Yeah, exactly, and we are tracking some of those scattered snow showers that continue to come into areas of Port Angeles. Here's the latest now on our KOMO News Doppler radar. What I want to show you here, we had some pockets of blue out of Port Angeles as that snow continues to come down across eastern portions of the strait. Again, it's along 101. Just this pocket of colder air is certainly out there. And what we are dealing with is some of that scattered snow in Port Angeles. Very concentration here throughout much of the eastern strait while everyone else is dealing with rain, at least throughout the lowlands. Our winds are going to be picking up too. Wind right now at 24 miles per hour in Hoquiam, 12 in Olympia, and 10 in Seattle. Again, it's all due to this front that's coming on through. As it passes us, it's going to leave us with colder air, but until then, windy conditions. Wind advisories through 4 o'clock this afternoon, once again in effect for Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia, and across to much of the Kitsap Peninsula as well. The rain, yeah, that's continuing too, and some of that rain very heavy at times along our coastline throughout much of the South Sound. And you can see pockets of this yellow now crossing over Vashon Island, all making its way to the north and east. So if it's not raining heavily where you are, certainly in Seattle and Linwood, up into the Everett area, it will in a matter of time. Mostly cloudy skies, rain now in downtown Seattle. We're at 42 degrees. That wind is slowly picking up too. We're at 37 in Bremerton, 40 in Everett, and 36 degrees in Friday Harbor. You're at 33. That's the snow right now in Port Angeles. There's the cold front. There's the colder air behind it. And as it makes its way closing in, we could have some lowland snow reports, not only in Port Angeles, but in many other communities as early as tomorrow morning because of that blast of colder air. Wouldn't surprise me if we do get some of those spotty snow showers tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, today, it's going to be pretty much all rain. Mostly cloudy skies, temperatures in the mid to upper 40s by the time it's all said and done. We're going for that wintry mix late tonight and through the day tomorrow. Sunny on Thursday, another round of winter weather could be a possibility in the lowlands early Friday morning.
A new problem to tell you about up in Snohomish County in Linwood, southbound 405, just south of I-5. HOV lane currently blocked by this latest crash, and you can see a lot of aid on the scene. Plus, the roads are wet, so you definitely want to drive accordingly if you're going to be traveling in that particular stretch of southbound 405. Southbound I-5 just passing Alderwood Mall. We're seeing speeds at 14 miles per hour, and let's bring you up to speed in terms of those morning drive times. We're now sitting at 63 minutes from Everett to Seattle, Linwood to Bellevue, 26-minute commute. Sumner to Renton, 44 minutes, and over an hour to Tacoma to Seattle.
Time is now 6:21. Coming up next, we continue to follow that deadly derailment investigation.
I'll give you a live look right now before we head to break. The big question remains this morning: why did this happen? What needs to be done to make sure it doesn't happen again? Also, coming up next, Kale has some brand new information from the live desk on how those patients are doing this morning. We're back after this.
Well, a live look outside in DuPont, Washington, the scene of that deadly train derailment. It's hard to believe that was less than 23 hours ago when Amtrak train number 501 came off of its tracks. 13 cars were derailed. Only one locomotive stayed on the tracks. 86 people were on board that train at the time of the accident.
And a lot has happened in those less than 24 hours. Let's get it over to Cale. Cale, you have some new information for us.
Yeah, guys, just coming in from Providence, St. Peter, and Olympia this morning. I just got this update. They took in 11 patients out of all of the patients that were injured in this and treated. 11 patients to Providence, St. Peter. They tell us 5 have been treated and released. 6 are still hospitalized. But here's the good news. They're all showing improvement. In fact, Providence St. Peter tells us that all 6 are listed in fair or better condition this morning. And then just to rehash, the other update that we have so far this morning came from Harborview Medical Center. They took 3 patients. Those patients still hospitalized this morning, but also showing some improvement. They're listed in 2 in serious, 1 in satisfactory condition. More hospital updates are likely to come in a little bit later this morning. And of course, as we get them, we'll share them with you.
We know hospitals had staff that stayed long overnight and into the morning, so thank you for all their hard work. Give you another live look at the scene right now, still very active. Coming up, we're going to speak with our own Kent Phillips, who is live with the urgent need for blood donations following the train derailment, and how you can help right here at KOMO Plaza starting in a little more than an hour from now.
And if you're just trying to find out about friends and family who may have been involved, we do have a number for you. Take a look at your screen right now if you can. That number, 1-800-523-9101. If you're just joining us, we continue to follow this Amtrak tragedy that the nation is watching this morning.
Our team coverage continues right now. First, we want to check in with Paris with a look at our roads. Paris?
One thing we want to tell people, do not travel between Roy, McKenna, and Yelm. We're seeing heavy delays in that particular area. Your alternate route is Highway 16, as you can see right here over the Narrows Bridge to Highway 3, then to US 101.
It's 6:30 right now, and I want you to see the latest on our KOMO News radar. We are drenched. It is really raining right now across areas of the South Sound, all the way through DuPont and Tacoma, up along I-5. Whether you're coming from the north end or the south end into downtown Seattle, it is very wet. Both of our floating bridges also seeing some moderate rain. Yeah, do deal with a wet and windy one ahead.
As the shock of what unfolded on that stretch of I-5 in DuPont less than 24 hours ago slowly wears off, now there are so many questions that remain unanswered.
Let's get right out to KOMO's Denise Whitaker live above I-5, where how the work is going to move some of those mangled train cars. Denise?
Absolutely. Many of those questions, the answers to which will come from this wreckage. Let me move out of the way so you can see exactly how crews are working on this today. We do have a crane, a very prominent crane you can see set up in your shot right there, and a number of crews all down there working. They've been out here for hours working on this, and it is a very slow process. It took several hours just to get the very first train car moved. They've now been able to move a second train car, but remember, there were 12 total, plus a forward and a rear locomotive, so this is a very time-sensitive, very time-consuming process. There's a lot of equipment down here, a lot of flatbeds, and you're only seeing a portion of the crews and the equipment that is down here trying to get everything cleaned up this morning. Now, if we take a look at the view that Air 4 gave us yesterday, you again can see where all of the cars of the train really ended up. And that is what's, giving us perspective on all of the work that still needs to be done here. This derailment couldn't have happened at a worse time, right over super busy Interstate 5 in the middle of a morning commute. The tracks run right along John Forestring's property. He tells us that he has been concerned about these tracks being located here for quite some time.
People got killed for no reason. Any basic engineer could go up there and say, hey, this is not a good idea. Let's reroute it. But they didn't. It was the cheapest way to go.
Now, this was the first train to utilize these tracks with passengers on board. Yesterday, the train had a crew of 5 plus 80 passengers when it left the train tracks. Now, the train left from Seattle 10 minutes after its scheduled 6 a.m. departure time. That is according to rail trackers yesterday morning. It was running a bit behind. As we've heard, speeds up to 80 miles per hour at the time of the derailment. Now, again, even though this was the very first time that this train traveled with passengers across these tracks, a lot of testing had been done. Of course, the Amtrak, NTSB, local partners, they had all spent a lot of time, more than a year actually, testing these tracks because, again, this was a new track, a new route that they were using for passenger service and at the higher speeds. And from what we've been told throughout all of that testing process, the speeds were rated to up to 79 miles per hour. Of course, we are following more on the speeds in the investigation, though it is still too early to know or to speculate on anything. Again, I want to mention that detour. If you have to travel I-5, there is a detour in place. It is clearly marked. It's easy to follow, but it's not going to be a quick detour around. It is definitely going to take time as more drivers try to use that particular detour.
Still a lot of questions this morning. Speed, human error, mechanical issues, or signal problems. Right now, the NTSB investigators are scouring that scene, searching for answers.
KOMO's Matt Markovich is also live in DuPont with some new information. Matt, what do you have for us?
Well, we're just west of Denise's position, but we're actually right over the tracks that lead down to that trestle we've all seen with all the mangled cars on it. Let's take a look at what's happening now. As we zoom in there, a lot of bright lights, but you can actually see the one engine, the locomotive, and the rear locomotive, which is still on the tracks right near the apex of that turn. We believe that's where the trains went off the tracks, and that rear train engine plays an important role in all this. Now, NTSB board member Bella Denzar said that the speed of the train at the time of the accident was determined by downloading the event data recorder from that locomotive that was in the rear of the train. Now, the speed is going to be a key factor in this investigation because the speed limit here is 30 miles an hour, but yet they're saying that the train was doing 80 miles an hour. Now, this is the first day for the NTSB crew, a first full day to investigate this crash, and it's featuring a lead investigator of a crash in 2015 in Philadelphia that killed 8. Now, while the NTSB is trying to figure out why it happened, they're not involved in the process of clearing I-5 and the removal of the trains.
We can look at things either on scene or back at a secure location, or we even take some things such as the black box event data recorder back to our state-of-the-art lab in Washington, D.C. And on scene, we're usually there for 7 to 10 days, but the investigation can go on to the final report for up to a year.
Now, investigators have yet to interview the crew and the engineer in the accident, and we're also unsure why the train was going so fast. They're also unsure why the train was going so fast. Now, all 6 crew members were hospitalized, and they're hoping to speak with the crew over the next few days. Now, they're talking about this positive train control, which is going to be a big part of this investigation. And this track had that installed, but the Sound Transit owns this part of the tracks. They had not activated it. They plan to activate it in the spring of 2018. That's going to be a big question going forward the next few days. Why wasn't this portion of the track been activated with positive train control, which could have stopped a fast-moving train heading into a curve that's only set to do 30 miles an hour for a passenger train? Reporting live near DuPont, Matt Markovich, KOMO News.
And why was that deadline pushed back, Matt? Thank you. A Puyallup couple was among the first witnesses who rushed to help people inside those derailed train cars. Alicia Hoverson and Dan Konzelman were on their way to work when they saw that wreckage. They scrambled to get to those mangled train cars, with Dan going inside to help get people out.
There was a couple people that were pinned from the waist down, and there's nothing you can do for them, really. And so I just tried to stay with them and calm them down.
Konzelman says to get inside one of the overturned train cars, he had to climb a tree and then drop through a window. The couple says that they were able to help out more than a dozen people.
And let's talk about what we're seeing out on the roads. A lot of people heeding the warning and not taking southbound I-5 towards DuPont, where it is blocked at Mounds Road, and that traffic diversion is at Center Drive. But you can see plenty wet near JBLM this morning, and we're seeing a lot of slick roads in many places, in addition to heavy delays. So all those usual hot spots are pretty heavy right about now out of Tacoma Federal Way, and as you're making your way along the Valley Freeway, essentially as you're trying to get closer north, maybe even into downtown downtown Seattle. Once you pass the West Seattle Bridge, you're seeing speeds around 18 miles per hour. And then we're still keeping a close eye in the Linwood area, southbound 405, south of I-5. The HOV lane is blocked by a crash. But really where we're seeing our heaviest traffic delay through the Linwood area is on southbound I-5 as you're trying to get beyond Mount Lake Terrace. So you might want to think about using Highway 99 to bypass this heavy pressure on South 5.
This morning, there is an urgent need for blood donations following that derailment. And KOMO, along with Star 101.5, are teaming up for a good cause.
We're hosting a mobile blood drive outside of KOMO Plaza this morning. You can donate between 8 o'clock and 11 a.m. this morning. Star's own Kent Phillips will be there at 10 o'clock. He joins us on the phone. Good morning, Kent.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for the support. We're really looking to get a lot of people to give blood. It's going to be, you realize that there was only 2 days supply before this accident, and now the need is just insanely great for blood, and everybody can help out.
All right, so let's drum up some support here and get people excited about come and help out. What can they expect when they come down today?
If you come down here today, they'll set you up. You get a cookie. That's the best part. Kelly, Ryan, it's a cookie. You get a cookie after you give blood, but they'll set you up. They'll give blood. And if you can't come down here, the very simple way to do this is go to bloodworksnw.org, and you just set up a time to donate at any one of their centers. But we'd like to get thousands of people given today so we can max out the blood supply.
And Kent, you were telling us, I mean, it was just not after this derailment, but there was already a shortage, especially during the holiday season.
This is a terrible time of year. I was talking with Dr. Arbajan at Bloodworks. I mean, they are always dangerously low this year, and literally, there was just 2 days supply, and then 150 units had to go down to help these victims. So it's just dangerous, and it's something all of us can do. It doesn't require money, just a little bit of your time and a little blood, and you do get a cookie. You do.
Will you be donating, Ken?
10 o'clock. As soon as I get off the air down here at Star 101.5, I'll be down there donating. You bet. I'm a 10-gallon member, so I donate 2 or 3 times a year.
All right, thanks, Kent, very much from Star 105. And a reminder, the Blood Mobile will be outside KOMO Plaza from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock this morning. You have to make an appointment online. We have a link with all that information on KOMOnews.com.
Easy way to help out, that's for sure. Hey, 6:39, the time now. I want to show you exactly what's going on here. First of all, you see a bunch of yellow behind me. I've zoomed into downtown Seattle. There's Bainbridge, there's areas of the Kitsap Peninsula, and then across the way we have the east side. Every single spot that you see here is dealing with heavy rain that's coming in and out of the city, and as you travel out to the east side, or you're coming from the east side into downtown Seattle. Both of our floating bridges are drenched, and we're also talking about all of this activity crossing over the mountains, and a lot of snowfall is taking place right now. So much so that our winter storm warning is in place through 10 o'clock tonight. If you can put off that past travel, go ahead and do so. We're talking more than 7 to 14 inches of snow above 3,500 feet. Whiteout conditions are likely across the Cascades. So again, it's going to get better likely tomorrow, but until then, a winter storm warning is in effect. Back here in the lowlands where we are looking at temperatures in the low 40s at 8 a.m. It'll remain cloudy. It's going to remain wet and windy through much of the afternoon as temperatures by 5 o'clock reach 43.
All right, just in case you need any more information about the crash, maybe friends or family are looking for someone who may have been involved in this, we have this phone number for you. We've been giving it to you since yesterday, and it's an important one. It's 800-523-9101, 800-523-9101.
Of course, we'll continue to follow this breaking news here and on KOMO News Radio. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
The Amtrak derailment near DuPont reminds some of 2015's deadly crash near Philadelphia. That train was going more than 100 miles per hour in a 50-mile-per-hour zone when it hit a curve and went off the tracks. 8 people were killed and 200 injured. Investigators found that Pennsylvania crash could have been prevented with the use of that positive train control we've been talking about, which is a computerized speed limiting system. Amtrak says the crash near DuPont, positive train control, was not being used. Congress has required all passenger trains to implement that technology by the end of 2018. It should be noted the investigator that was at that Philadelphia crash also on scene in DuPont.
If you're just joining us, we continue to follow this tragic derailment. A live look at the scene right now. This is the bend where that train actually came off of its tracks. That happening less than 24 hours ago. The NTSB now on the ground, boots on the ground. Investigators arriving yesterday, but today will be the first full day of their investigation. That investigation expected to last for 7 to 10 days. We'll be right back with more special coverage.
Welcome back to KOMO News, and we're taking a live look at the map in the Port Orchard area of Highway 16, right at that intersection of Highway 3. And unfortunately, we're hearing reports of a crash. This is our alternate route we've been pushing for a lot of people who are trying to make their way to Olympia via Highway 16 and Highway 3. So we're seeing a lot of congestion in this area. We're trying to pinpoint exactly where this crash is located. We'll have details for you coming up in our next traffic report.
In case you're just joining us, KOMO and Star 101.5 are hosting a blood drive this morning outside of KOMO Plaza.
And there is a huge demand for donations following the train crash. Joining us right now on the phone is Dr. Jim Abashan of BloodWorks Northwest. Thank you so much for joining us again. In case anyone is just joining us, Doctor, why don't you break down the need for us right now?
Well, we appreciate the community response that is occurring in the support of all those who were injured yesterday. We sent out over 150 units of blood before 9 a.m. Monday morning to the hospitals in the South Sound area that were treating the patients from this disaster. We have had a wonderful response yesterday. Had almost double the donation rate that we would usually see on a Monday, and so our inventory is coming back up. But this is a very difficult time of the year. The train disaster could not have happened at a worse time with respect to the inventory of blood, because the holiday period is always a time of shortage for us. So we are very appreciative of people donating either today or in the next few days or even next week between the holidays to make sure that we maintain an adequate inventory to respond to the next disaster.
And Dr. Abashan, you had talked about the community response. Were you surprised by the outpouring of support?
Now, this is a very caring community, and we anticipated that many people would want to show their support of the victims of this disaster. So we have to make sure that we had enough staff, and we stayed open late in several locations, and we appreciate the patience of those who waited in line yesterday.
And just looking ahead at the blood drive this morning, in case people haven't ever donated blood before, what's the process like? How long does it take?
It takes about an hour in total. There is a mini physical exam. There's answering of a few questions to make sure that you're healthy and that the blood will be suitable for transfusion. The actual donation takes anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, and then there's the coffee and cookies afterwards.
Thank you, Dr. Jim Abashan of BloodWorks Northwest. Once again, that blood drive happening in front of KOMO Plaza beginning at 8 o'clock this morning.
Until 11, yes.
This morning, we're hearing from a Northwest doctor, one of the witnesses who saw the train wreckage and stopped to help.
Dr. Nathan Selden was driving on I-5 from Portland to Seattle with his son when they came up to the scene. Dr. Selden arrived after most severely injured had escaped the train, but still helped to treat people who had broken arms, legs, cuts, and bruises.
To see the scene and this incredible chaos and the just almost unspeakable force that must have thrown those cars off of the track right behind us as we were working with the patients was like nothing I've ever seen, and I'm sure nothing I'll ever see again. I certainly hope not.
Dr. Selden says his thoughts are now with the families of those killed and the injured as they start to recover.
And let's talk about what we're seeing up in the north. And that earlier crash we're telling you about, southbound 405 south of I-5. WashDOT just tweeted it is cleared. So you got that picture there. That is starting to move a little bit better. But southbound I-5 still pretty locked up as you're making your way out of the Linwood area. We're seeing those delays starting in Marysville. Some scattered delays off and on as you're traveling along that southbound I-5 corridor. Plenty wet just near the Boeing Field area. Heading in that northbound direction is where we're seeing our heaviest traffic flow. And then we told you in that last traffic update about issue that we were hearing on Highway 16. Just saw a tweet from WashDOT. They're saying it's actually on Highway 3, a 3-car accident. We're trying to pinpoint exactly if it's blocking or not. Nonetheless, you can see for yourself, if you're traveling southbound Highway 3, you're only moving at 23 miles per hour. So keep that in mind. This is the alternate route we've been pushing all morning long. If you have to head towards Olympia and you are taking Highway 16 around, jumping on not only Highway 3 and Highway 16, but as you're going to eventually be making your way to US 101. So just pad in plenty of time. It's out of the way, a little over 63 miles out of the way. So that is just one area where we're starting to see more delays filling in.
We are seeing crews, though, working diligently on cleanup. In fact, Live 14, this is the scene behind Denise Whitaker at her live shot. And I want to kind of explain what it is you're looking at here. We see the train car, one of them here, has now been looped here with these ropes attached to this crane, and it appears as says, though, they are preparing to lift and move it from the scene. We've had some of the time-lapse video we've been showing you throughout the course of the morning of the work that has taken place through the course of the night. Obviously, there it is raining. The conditions are miserable, and that's one of the reasons why we're not actually able to bring you live aerials this morning yet either, because Air Force simply cannot launch in this weather as it stands right now. One more reminder, since we just heard from Paris about traffic, Live 18, if you are going to be on the road this morning, it is worth mentioning this tweet this morning again from Washington Emergency Management. They say if you're going to be taking the detours, plan for a wait. In fact, they say it is better to bring your vehicle emergency kit with you in case the wait is way longer than you expected, and it could be quite long. We've heard from some people here this morning on social media, one person telling me that they got off their bus and walked 57 blocks home yesterday because it was simply faster along State Route 507. And also, you don't want to run out of gas, so please just, if you're going to be heading out, make sure you have a full tank of gas this morning.
10 minutes now to the top of the hour. As Cale mentioned, yeah, it's raining. I mean, it is pouring right now in DuPont and across much of the South Sound. Not only is it raining, but we're going to have to deal with winds and strong winds at that through the day. Already seeing those winds clocked at 12 miles per hour in Olympia, gusting closer to 15. In Tacoma, you're at 8. 10 in Seattle, but those winds are picking up in Hoquiam at 24 miles per hour and really going to get quite gusty through the day today. That's why the Weather Service issuing this wind advisory for all of the highlighted sections of yellow here, including DuPont, including Pierce counties, Tacoma up through Seattle and across the water to the Kitsap Peninsula and near Hood Canal. Again, this wind advisory through 4 o'clock this afternoon and gusts anywhere from about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Now let's talk about the rain. Very heavy at times, not only across Pierce County, but Thurston County too. Lots of yellows here on the map indicating that heavy rain that's likely pushing through much of the morning commute from the north to the south ends and all points in between. And the snow that I was talking about earlier continues to come down across the Cascades. You'll be finding plenty of wet roadways out there this morning. Temperatures in the low 50s. You got that humidity up at about 96%. Lots of moisture in the atmosphere. Already seeing those temps in the 30s and 40s. Port Angeles, colder pocket of air, bringing with it some lowland snow towards the eastern straits this morning. 39 in Bellingham, and we're at 37 in Bremerton. This cold front is quite powerful. It's a very strong front, and that's going to be bringing with it the wind and the rain through the day today. But behind it is the cooler air. We could all be seeing a wintry mix early tomorrow morning as snow levels dip down to about 200 feet, likely to round out the work week with the possibility of some scattered lowland snow as well. Temperatures in the mid to upper 40s today. We drop like a rock when it comes to our temperatures tomorrow. That's why I'm calling for that wintry mix. Upper 30s on your Thursday, and we're cold but dry into Christmas Day. We'll be right back.
All right, let's take you back out right now to KOMO's Denise Whitaker.
She's been live for us all morning long in DuPont. Denise, what's happening right now?
We are actually now seeing some more progress. I'm going to get right out of your way so that you can see this as well. You know, we had just 2 train cars that had been moved the last time I talked to you, but now a 3rd car that is literally right there over the overpass, sitting on the overpass, I should say, right where this entrance from Mounts Road comes onto I-5. That train car has now been uprighted slightly, so they are definitely moving closer to getting it moved. So this is some progress that's being made right now, and this is what people have been waiting to see all night and throughout the morning here this morning, because people would like to see everything get cleaned up and get the highway back open. Certainly that is the goal today, but also while preserving the evidence that needs to be preserved here, and at the same time while maintaining the safety of everyone who is down there working, the crane operators, dozens of other workers down there. They have to definitely make sure that they are remaining safe while they're trying to move all of these train cars and preserve all of the evidence. A total of 80 people, you recall, were on board that train, plus 5 crew members, so 80 passengers plus 5 crew members. The investigation into exactly what happened is going to take some time. It could take an entire year, though NTSB this morning told me that what they do is they make sure that if they learn anything right away that is of safety paramount, they will make sure that information gets put out there right away so that they can prevent any other tragedies like this one from happening anywhere else in the country. But it is going to be a long process, not only to clear the interstate, but to find out what happened here in Pierce County.
Yeah, as we have seen with other big NTSB investigations here locally. Paris, how are the roads doing right now?
Very challenging. They're very wet. And when we take you back down to the scene, some people are still taking southbound I-5, but traffic is pushed onto Center Drive. That is exit 118. You do have the option to kind of drive and slink your way through JBLM, but keep in mind that is local access only, and that will get you on Highway 510.
Look at all the wet roadways out there. Look at all of this rain that we're dealing with. Pockets of the yellows and oranges are popping up. Very heavy rain up and down I-5. Your hour-by-hour forecast calling for those temps in the mid-40s through the day.
We'll have the very latest on the train derailment and all your local news. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for joining us.
Have a great Tuesday morning.